Konnichiwa, Garetto to mushimasu. Hello from London, and in today's video I'd like to give you an update on my Learning Basic Japanese project. This is the month 5 update of a 9-month project which began in January. First of all though, if you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm Dr. Gareth Popkins. Here it's about language learning in all its forms. We explain how. We've got inspiring interviews and stories with language learners and movers and shakers from the world of language learning. And I get out and about and into that world with vlogs out in the field. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do. And if you sign up below, you can get my free webinar training in language learning skills. You don't want to miss that. So, why am I a bit late with what's actually the May update? The reason is I was in Bratislava for the Polyglot Gathering, and I'm also busy at the moment working on the vlogs, the daily vlogs that I was shooting from that event. So look out for those on the channel soon. But I thought I'd wait till I got back here to London to give you an update on where we are with the Japanese. Now, if I had done the 30 minutes a day, 7 days a week, which I set as my target when I started this project back in January, I would have managed 15.5 hours in May. Actually, I overshot the target and I did 21 hours and 10 minutes focus study on the language. So a bit of a pat on the back for Dr. P there, I think. I managed to keep going and I only actually missed 3 days. So most days I did slightly more than half an hour, so it averaged out above the target. But there were 3 days when I didn't study, and the last 2 of those were actually when I was at Bratislava, busy at the gathering. If you've watched these updates before, you know that I'm structuring my learning around a textbook, and that's the Japanese from Zero series. I completed the first one in January, February and March in 3 months, and my target for April, May and June is to finish book 2, then moving on to 3 for the last 3 months, before I go to Japan in October to another polyglot event, the conference this time, which is in Fukuoka. And that's been the target and one of the inspirations for and the driver behind deciding to learn Japanese this year. Now, unfortunately, I fell a bit behind with the target in April, and I have managed to maintain my pace but not to close the gap. That I think is because as I've got further into Japanese from Zero, the units have got fuller, there's more and more content in each lesson. So if I'm going to stick with the 30 minutes a day, it hasn't proved possible for me, if I'm working thoroughly through the material, to close the gap. What I did do in May was work through 4 units, which was the pace that I planned, and I did units 3, 4, 5 and 6 in the book. And they were introducing some interesting new particles, which are a key grammatical feature of Japanese. So the or particle, which is used to indicate with some verbs the object of the sentence, rather like you might use a case ending in Russian, or the article in declined article in German, for example. That's been one new thing. Another is the mashoi ending on the verb, which you drop on the end of a verb, tabimashoi, for let's eat, for example, which is going to be really useful. And then also counting words when you're counting people or animals was something new which came up. Japanese, I think, like Chinese, has counting category words which you have to use when you name an object with a number. Rather like we'd say in English 15 head of cattle, instead of just 15 cows, for example, that's compulsory in the language. You have to use those counting categories, but there are different categories for long objects, short flat objects, people, animals, as I say. So you have to learn those. So 2 more of those introduced. So that's a fascinating area. I must say, you do feel the sheer, at the moment I'm feeling the sheer scale of new material coming in the language. So while it's all very interesting and each individual concept seems to me quite simple, it's the sheer amount of memory load that you have to carry, which is true with any new language, but particularly with a language which isn't related to a language that you've learnt before, that is a bit daunting at this stage for me with the Japanese. Particularly when you add into that, you've got new writing systems to learn, and in Japanese from Zero Book 2, we are learning the second of the 2 syllabaries, the katakana, which are used to really render mainly loan words, foreign words that have come into Japanese or foreign names and places. And it does seem that the Japanese love to borrow, almost gratuitously, words from other languages, particularly, I think, from English. So words that I've come across in the textbook are things like coin rocker for coin locker, and one I particularly love, sukuranburu egu for scrambled egg. And you seem to think, well, why can't they coin their own words for this? But I think they must just love borrowing and creating some sort of eclectic mix from other languages, rather like they did when they borrowed the whole of the Chinese character system, what's called the Kanji in Japanese, which was something I'd been planning to learn in parallel with the work on the grammar and the vocab and the easier syllable-based, phonetic-based writing systems, the hiragana and the katakana. But as I reported in April, time has not enabled me really to do much with the Chinese characters, and it's been the same story in May, unfortunately. I do like going back to them, but they take a lot of time, so while I will do some more when the fancy takes me, I think realistically it looks as if getting on top of the kanji characters would be a project for a second year of work on the Japanese. So that's something, well, watch this space and see how things develop on that. Now, I've been supplementing my work with Japanese from zero with the Assimil course, Le Japonais, which I used a couple of times, mainly actually when I was in Bratislava, because it's a light portable course. I took that with me, so I'm using that occasionally. And the major secondary course which I'm now using, which wasn't one I particularly planned to use at the beginning, but which I've gone to because of the lack of decent audio resources for Japanese from zero, is the Pimsleur language course. And if you've seen previous updates, you'll know that I'd been using in March and April part 2 of level 1 of Pimsleur on CDs. Well, in May, I bit the bullet and bought level 2. I bought the app, I downloaded the app and bought the course, which I then downloaded onto my phone into the app. As I say, it's audio only, and I'm listening to it mainly when I'm jogging through the park or when I'm on my commute to and from the office through the headphones. So that's really solved the problem, which was starting to really concern me, of the lack of adequate audio exposure. I think we've got to take the soundscape of a language very, very seriously all the way through, and particularly at the beginning. And Japanese pronunciation for a native English speaker is not particularly difficult. There are far fewer sounds actually than in English and than in most other languages. So there's everything to play for, but doesn't mean that you cannot, or that I want to go a long way in without having heard what the language sounds like. So I'm enjoying the Pimsleur course. I'm going to continue to use that in parallel with my main resource, Japanese from zero. Looking ahead then to June, well, we're already over a week into June now, but what I'm doing is pressing on with Japanese from zero, book 2, and I don't think I'll finish it this month as I'd originally planned, but if I can manage to close any of the gap, that at least would be good. So as I've said before, I am not trying to speak much at this stage. It will be a project for later on in the summer to start having one-to-one lessons with a teacher online. That's something I think I want to do when I've got the basic sort of 1,000 words and phrases off in a more active way than I have at the moment. That then is how the project is going. I think it's a sort of steady as she goes and perhaps a rather undramatic report this month. But I hope that gives you a sense that it's not all fireworks in language learning. Sometimes you just have to get on with your focus study, with your recall practice with vocabulary and so on. Are you learning Japanese too at the moment? Did you start at a similar time to me? Share your experiences in the comments below if that's the case, or if you're already an experienced Japanese learner or speaker or teacher. I'm sure we'd also love to have some advice, any advice or tips that you can offer us, or even words of encouragement. Now, I had planned to go out and film this in the park this today actually, and that was an excuse partly to show you some footage of the Cygnets who have been born in the park here in Brixton, where I live in South London. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, particularly Instagram stories, you'll know that their appearance last year was a bit of an event locally, and there've been another set actually born this year. So I will close with some footage of them because I think it's rather fun to share them. And I hope you enjoy it. And, you know, we're branching out into nature in this channel a bit too, at least for this week. Anyway, do tell me your latest experiences with your own language learning, Japanese or otherwise, in the comments below. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for the vibe, throw me a thumbs up, tickle that bell, and share if you can. Sayonara.